Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, July 5th, 2013. Well, a key provision of Obamacare has been postponed. Didn't I tell you that Democrats were getting very worried about Obamacare and the effects on the economy? I mean, one senator who was a key architect, a Democrat from Montana, Max Baucus, called it a train wreck. He's not running for re-election in November 2014. Yes, even Democrats know this is a very destructive, a very cumbersome, and it's going to really hurt the economy. And what they've postponed is the employer mandate, where if you have a company and there's 50 or more employees, you're required to give those companies health care or you pay a fine. That's been postponed till 2015 after the midterm elections. You think there's a little political undertone there? I have a friend of mine I went out to lunch with. He owns a very successful plumbing company in my area. He has 49 employees. I said, are you doing that because of, yes, Obamacare? I don't have any more because if I do, I'll have to give, benefits, which I think he already does. And I don't want to have to put up with that, so I only have 49 employees, but that's just for that. I've cut down to 49 employees because I've had to cut everything to the bone. The economy is terrible. The stock market is overbought. I don't understand, why it's overbought, Fed money printing, but still even he knows it's overbought. That's what he says, and he's worried, and he's cut everything to the bone. And he told me all of my other friends who own businesses have cut all the employees they can to survive because business is so bad. So if business is that bad, then why are we doing Obamacare? Because, basically we're going to insure an additional 40 million people. The people that can pay will pay for the additional 40 million people who cannot or will not buy health insurance. And this is just one provision, the employer mandate to give health insurance. I mean, this is a 2,000-page bill. All kinds of stuff kicks in. We still have to have the individual mandate. The individual has to go buy health insurance or they get fined. I mean taxed. That's what this is, a big giant tax. Well, I'll tell you, people like Carl Denninger, I had him on several months ago, and he says that, the economy will not survive Obamacare. Is this better? Yes. Is it going to save the economy and save all the other negative effects from all the other stuff that goes into effect? No. My prediction is the Democrats are going to have a very rough time in the midterm elections in 2014. And just putting this off and go, oops, we'll put off this and maybe we'll screw you less until after the election. And maybe, the Democrats will gain seats. This is a mess. And look for the Republicans to make hay over it. It's very unpopular. Most people don't even know what's in it. But your health insurance is going to cost more. That's for sure. Next up, the military coup in Egypt has ousted its one-year-old president, or actually a president who's only been there for 1 year, Mohamed Morsi. As a matter of fact, he's in police custody. He's in custody of the army. Then you've seen all the protests. They've had tens of hundreds of thousands of people protesting his rule. The economy is in a tailspin. People don't want to have Islamist rule. A lot of folks over there, after he first was elected, said, hey, basically the Muslim Brotherhood hijacked our revolution, and we traded one tyrant for another tyrant in Morsi. Mubarak to Morsi, tyrant to tyrant. And people aren't happy about it. They don't want to live under Islamist rule. And the tourism industry makes up about 12% of the economy. It's a pretty big chunk, has imploded. I mean, it's off 30% or more. That's cost them at least $3 billion. And in a struggling country like Egypt, yes, that makes a big difference. Now, the army says they are going to hold elections again, but Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood are out, and that is not all bad news. The latest casualty in the Edward Snowden NSA, scandal are the relations between the United States and the European Union. All the countries over there, including Great Britain. They're all angry that the U.S., basically it was revealed the U.S. through Snowden, has been spying on them. We're spying on our allies. We're spying on all Americans. We're hacking into China. I mean, is this the way we want our spy agency to be all-encompassing and to be surveilling everybody, including our allies? I think not. Well, they're so mad over there that we're in the process of discussing a new trade deal, and this is very important. The European Union is, 380 million people, a huge market, right? And they're discussing this transatlantic trade and investment partnership, kind of a big deal to make sure that both countries are, gaining, trade and floating their economies. And basically the folks in the European Union say, yeah, we want to talk about this, but we also want to have meetings about all the spying at the same time. Woo, you talk about embarrassing. You talk about a tough situation when we already have an imploding, teetering economy. And now this happens, America is losing its prestige. And when America loses its prestige, so does the U.S. dollar. Remember that. Finally, Citigroup, you may have seen this. In USA Today, here's how they posted this. Citi to pay $961 million to settle a dispute. Oh, it's just a dispute. This is the way the USA Today this past week characterized this story. Well, they're paying $960 million, and there's no real dispute. The government says, you pawned off mortgages that weren't the quality you said they were, in the form of mortgage-backed securities, basically. That they said these securities that contained these mortgages, they bundled up a bunch of mortgages into a security, and they said they were AAA. Oh, they're great. When in fact, they weren't. They misrepresented, according to the newspaper, according to USA Today, how likely they would be to default. Really? Turn sour? Toxic is what they call these instruments, this debt. Toxic is the name they give it. They don't like to say that. But also inside these mortgages that they all rolled up were liar loans, at least a percentage of them. So they said these securities were AAA, and they probably wouldn't default because they're such a great quality. And inside them are, multiple and many different liar loans where people lied about their income, they lied about their jobs, they lied about their equity. And, they didn't have a lot in the houses, and so we have a very high default rate on this. And my question is, let's see, they paid $968 million to settle, pawning off 3.7 million loans onto us, the taxpayer, to the government. So they settled that for $261 alone? $261 alone. To settle charges of what I think are fraud. I think there's security fraud. I think there's mortgage fraud. I think there are ratings fraud. They certainly weren't AAA. And my question is, why do we constantly prop up these too big to fail banks, and we do it at the expense of the United States taxpayer? I mean, there's something called warranties of representations. And basically what that means is if something's not what you say it is, in other words, if these loans weren't AAA, they weren't the highest quality, equal to a treasury, well, then they could be forced to take them back. They're called putbacks. Why didn't we force them to take these loans back? Why did we let them pawn off 3.7 million questionable loans, and they settle it for $261 alone? Wow. Thanks, American taxpayers. Really appreciate it. And here's what I like about here's what I don't like, actually, about the newspaper. They say, $960 million to settle a dispute. Oh, it's just a dispute. It's a huge, enormous ripoff of the U.S. taxpayer. Why aren't there fraud charges? Why don't we make them buy this junk, take this stuff back? Oh, that's right. They're too big to fail. And as Eric Holder says, well, if we prosecute these big bankers, I'm paraphrasing here, basically he says we could implode the economy. This is an outrage. And the mainstream media, in this case it's USA Today, they soft pedal this enormous ripoff of you and me, the taxpayer. And these guys at least should have paid their bonuses back for selling all this stuff. Oh, no clawbacks, no nothing. $968 million on 3.7 million loans settled for $261 each. And thanks, we're off the hook. It's unbelievable. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog. Thank you for touching the donations button, so the few of you have done that. Have a nice weekend.